Welcome to the Way to Go podcast. I'm Bill McMinn along with my wife, Jeri. And we're in here, actually, we're talking about marriage today. And part of marriage is being with the other spouse, idiosyncrasies at all. And I've always said, you are like the princess and the pea. Like everything has to be perfect with Jeri.
Is this right? Is it facing my mouth right? I don't know.
Put it however you want it. It looks a little high to me.
That's what I thought.
I think it...
Is that good? This table keeps moving.
It's because you keep twisting the Are you comfortable? You're just in here with the show. I cannot tell you how many adjustments to the mic that she made. I don't feel like you're close enough to me, Bill. So then I move my clothes over. Jeri over. Mark's like, you're off center. Well, Jerry's like, am I off center? No, you're perfect. Oh, I'm perfect. I'm like, yeah, because I'm moving for you, Jeri. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, try to get over and make you happy.
It's all about me.
It's all about Jeri. So it's like the mic, no, this is too high. It's too low. It's like, this is my whole life. This has been my life for like 30, I don't know how many years have we been married. It's been a long time. I mean, I'm trying to think how many years have we been married?
37.
37 years, yeah.
I can't stop remembering. No, I'm just
You're driving me crazy. To the moon, Alice. Anybody remember the Jackie Grease? I don't even know if they get the honeymooners. I don't even know if they could get away with saying that stuff. Like, remember he used to say to his wife, like, didn't he used to shake his fist on the show? Did he used to do that?
Yeah, she wasn't putting up with it.
Wait, to the moon, Alice?
Yeah.
Was that what he would say? Oh my God. And it wasn't like love you to the moon and back either.
No,
it was like
I'm going to punch you to the moon.
Yeah, I'm going to punch you to the moon. Like,
but he never touched her.
No, of course not. That would be terrible. We would never recommend violence at all. But I will say there's a song, Hotel California. These are part of the lyrics of the song, The Hotel California. And I have a wedding coming up this weekend, so I might actually use these lyrics. But there she stood in the doorway. And I think about marriage, you know, and the guy standing there and his bride-to-be first enters into the back doorway. It's a beautiful moment. There she stood in the doorway. I heard the mission bell. And I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven or this could be hell. That's marriage, right? This could be heaven or this could be hell, right? I bet you there are people listening to this podcast that you're going to relate to that because you're like, oh no, you know, my marriage is heaven. And some of you might think, man, it's been a bit contentious. Like we're not getting along. Don't really feel like we love each other at this moment.
Yeah. People go through a lot of hard times.
Right. So there's some truth to those lyrics in a secular song.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, okay. So we're going to talk about that a little bit and talk about communication too. I think is one of the main things I want to hit on. I'm going to hit on some of the basis of marriage too. Like here's a good verse on the basics of marriage. Sometimes I'll talk to couples and you just realize they don't even know what the basics of marriage is. They don't even know how it's supposed to work from a biblical perspective. And when you don't have that information, and you're just out there doing what you think. Well, of course, you think you're right. So the husband thinks, well, of course, I'm right. I'm the husband. And the wife thinks, no, I'm right. Well, let's just not worry about who's right. Let's just go to the Bible and say, are we to the Bible standards, right?
Yeah, and I think so many times people base how they view marriage or how they behave in a marriage on how their parents' marriage was or their grandparents' marriage rather than how the Bible lays it out.
I think some people are sinking and they don't realize how big the hole in the side of the Titanic is. And you want to see them to be able to overcome, but being able to assess where I'm actually at in marriage is really, really important.
Yeah, it is.
Not understanding. Sometimes you'll talk to couples and they'll be like, oh yeah, you know, we have sex 3 times a year. I just thought that was normal for people my age. And I'm thinking to myself, I certainly hope not.
Yeah.
Like, not normal. And they don't realize that as a gauge and barometer, I mean, things are really going badly. It's like if you look at social media and you're never in your spouse's social media pictures, there may be a problem.
Right.
There may be a reason why you got cropped out of every picture there is. Maybe you need to start paying attention to what's going on around you. But when I think about the Bible says, you know, husbands obviously are supposed to love their wives. The wife's never commanded to love their husband. What do you think about that?
I think because if the husband does show love to the wife, you naturally are going to.
So the Bible doesn't have to tell you to love your husband because the wife naturally is going to love the husband.
I think so. Yeah.
I would agree with that. But there's something about, hey, the Bible says you're supposed to love me. You're supposed to love even your enemies. Just love me. Well, I would say this. How about you make yourself a little more lovable? What about the lovability factor? In other words, that I not just count on the fact, well, you're a Christian and we're married and we're committed, so it doesn't matter how I talk to you, doesn't matter how I treat you, you just have to love me anyway.
Right. No, you have to do your part to make the relationship good.
Right. So from my perspective, then I would want to make myself lovable to you. Right?
I think so.
Right.
Better get working on that.
Well, I know. Well, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm really thinking, because...
It's true, though. You know what I mean? Because I think sometimes people make excuses. Well, that's just the way I am, or that's just, the way my family is. We're this family, and that's, deal with it kind of thing, as opposed to... No, sometimes you need to look in the mirror and say, how would I like it if they acted that way toward me?
Right. But I think that, what would you say? I mean, to say to a guy, how can I be more lovable to my wife? I think probably maybe case by case is different, but in a general sense.
Well, I think number one, you have to know your wife and know what's important to her.
Okay.
Different women are different as far as what makes them happy or what bothers them. So you really have to be familiar, I think, one thing. And another, I think, is just, say the kind words. I mean, you're good at that. You're always, saying kind things and building me up. And it's good because it gives you security, in your relationship. And I think, if the spouse never says anything positive to the other person or never acts in a positive way, that can lead to, insecurity and kind of animosity at times.
So you've just stated how I make myself lovable to you.
Absolutely.
I give you a lot of compliments. I tell you every day how pretty you are, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, I say it every day.
Yeah,
I say it all the time, good job and things like that. If something's aggravating, not saying that I can't get grumpy or cross.
We all do.
For you, what makes you lovable to me? Can we have a pause in the show for a minute? I'm just going to... No.
The list is so long.
Yeah, right. I would say going places with me, definitely gives a lovability factor in that, I'm so driven to be outdoors. I like to kayak the other night. It was pretty windy.
It was very windy.
There were times when I was filming you. It's not really filming, but video recording off my phone. And you were in front of me and your kayak was disappearing behind this wave and then rising. Then I lost sight of it again. And it was, because it was a pretty good swell, decent breeze. You went out with me anyway and we had a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't feel like going, but once I get there, I always enjoy it.
Yeah. But I'm saying you went out on Sunday. We did a 6-mile hike because I was determined to find this waterfalls. And
wasn't really reading directions very well.
Honestly, like if somebody said, is Bill detail oriented on a scale of 1 to 10? Man, I would say 5, maybe.
Yeah, depends on what it is.
Depends on what it is. I mean, yeah, I can look down. I know how to get from A to Z. Like I will know how to get plants in the ground and what needs to be done.
I think you're detail oriented when it comes to like your job and, things that are truly important. But when it comes to someone giving you some directions, you glance at it quick and you're like, oh yeah, it's here. I got it.
That's me to a T. I mean,
until we hike up a stream that's not the stream we're supposed to be hiking up. And then Bill's like, well, that's not the waterfall in the picture. It must be past this waterfall. And? So we climb the waterfall. It was like crazy. He goes, come on, we can do it. I'm like, there's nowhere to put your feet.
It was actually intimidating. It was actually intimidating to climb this waterfall. And I'm looking at it because there's no place on land to climb.
No,
you have to climb through the water.
Yeah.
At different spots that's slick. I know the light gray, if you're in Ohio, the light gray stone, the water washes over it the most. And therefore, there's less algae on it because it has more water pressure, and less still water on it.
But when it's like an incline,
but it was like this. Much. Yeah, I mean, we're climbing up a falls like this. And so it was kind of scary because there weren't any real handholds or anything. And we get up there, all the way up there, and I get up on top of the second falls. I've talked to him doing it because I'm like, well, if somebody else did it.
I'm not doing it. He goes, come on, then I'm just going to leave you here. I'm like, okay, I guess I'm
like, well, those are the two options. I got to go find this fall, so I can leave you here and you're welcome to stay, or you can come up here. And I'm like, they did it. They did it. Like the people, obviously, if they came and found this falls, that they did this. And so I finally get to the top of these falls, and I look around, and I'm like, but there's no more elevation.
Maybe you better look at the directions again.
I said, so let me look at the direction. Instead of looking at what the picture of the falls, I looked at the direction. I'm like, oh, I thought it said go the first right, go up the stream until you go under I-90. It said go under 90 and take the first stream to the right, and then go. Oh, that's what it was.
It was so steep. Bill slid back down it on his butt, and I opted to slide down the cliff.
Yeah, the ledge, through the leaves, and I do have some.
I'm like, just hung on to the slid down with leaves. I'm like, I'm not going back down that
I do have some
waterfall.
video of it. It looked pretty cool, and then she stopped to pause by a tree, and she ruined my video. So I was pretty sad about that, actually. So I'm like, you just ruined my video. Seriously, like she wouldn't stay out in the waves. The other day, I was taking video, and she wouldn't stay out in the waves, and it washed her over the back of her boat. I didn't kayak. I didn't know that.
Soaked me.
And I'm like, this is a really cool video. You won't even stay in those waves. I mean, you came right in. She goes, well, I didn't know what you wanted to do. You know, so it was kind of funny. But so we had an adventure. You know what I'm saying? Because we climbed 2 falls, so we had no need to climb. And it was like stinging hilarious. Then we had to come all the way back down. And then we did find the falls we were looking for. This ended up being a 6-mile out and back hike that we take on a Sunday afternoon, starting at like 4:30. So we get back
through like
and it's
thigh-high weeds
after 8, all through
some
mud,
weeds over your head.
weeds,
Yeah, it was a mess.
over logs, under logs.
This is why I'm lovable, because I went.
Exactly. She went with me, and a lot of times spouses won't go, and they won't do anything with you. They won't go. No, I don't expect you to run because I know you're not going to do it. She's allergic to exercise.
Just say no to exercise.
Literally, legit. She gets. I don't know. I'm not saying hives, but she itches
like crazy.
So I don't expect
it's working for me.
Yeah, I don't expect you to run. There's a lot of things like I mean, you don't have to do that. I don't expect you to do everything. But if you were to leave me alone all the time to go by myself, and sometimes I will go kayak with another person.
Yeah, sometimes.
I'll go with a friend, or I'll go, out by myself and take pictures. I don't mind, being alone. But I'd say as a rule of thumb, we should do things together. So you make yourself lovable by going places with me and sacrificing and doing that. And then I make myself more lovable by just being nice. Yeah. That's probably the most important thing I can do in your book is just be nice.
Yeah.
Not just the words, but tone
I don't
of voice.
require a lot.
The tone of voice too, which we're going to move into.
Tone of voice.
We're going to move into communication now.
Yeah.
I think part of communication, if we're going to communicate, is listening to the other person. And this is one of the big drawback, I think, for some couples. They do not listen. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you have to, like you've said before, when they're saying it, sometimes it's already at a point where they're really frustrated if they're bringing it up. So, if someone has a concern or an issue and they bring it up to us, then we need to make sure that we take it seriously.
Yeah. I would say that. I would also say another thing that I often say is turn up the volume, especially if you're a guy. If your wife's talking, a lot of times she doesn't say it with the full force with which she feels it. Mm-hmm. So she just kind of, makes a statement, hey, I'm kind of frustrated, unhappy. And then you're like, oh, about what? Well, because you did blah, 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 blah. Then because she doesn't say anything else about it for the next 3 months, you think you're fine. Right. You didn't really do anything about it. She's still frustrated. You just didn't listen. Now, instead of being able to correct it at that moment, like at that really key moment before it really started to come far apart, now it's kind of like, okay, you just lost the oil in the engine. Now would be the time to replace that oil. Yeah. Somehow it came out. Now would be the time. Not run the engine without oil until it blows apart. Mm-hmm. And this is what some people in essence are doing. They are running their relationship into the ground. They are blowing the engine because the warning light came on via the wife. The warning light was on, came on, and she said, I'm not happy because of this, or it hurts me when this happens, or whatever it is. Because she never said it again, you think you're okay.
It's okay, yeah.
Because the wife knows, a lot of times the women, they know how to go through. Like, they know how to get by, and they don't want to argue. They don't want the conflict. They don't want to say anything. They maybe feel like you're not listening. There's a lot of reasons they might not say it until you're really in big, big trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true.
Right?
Yeah, for sure. So I think you need that. Another thing I think with communication is just communicate. You know what I mean? Don't always be watching TV or looking at your phone or on the computer. You know what I'm saying. So you're talking back and forth and kind of just sharing the everyday things of life with each other, because sometimes you see couples where they really don't spend much time. Like they're together, but they're not together. Right. Not really talking or communicating, and you can tend to really grow apart.
Well, one thing too, where like yesterday we worked on, I took a day off because I have a wedding, a lot of responsibilities on my normal day off. So I've been trying to actually force myself to take days off so I don't work 7 days a week. And everything we did it together. So if I had to run up and get dirt, even though there's nothing for you to do in the truck, while I run up and get another, because we had to shovel 2 truckloads of garden soil into our raised beds just to replenish the soils. It kind of gets pulled out when you pull out roots and it settles and whatnot. And so we were doing that, but I had you come with me anyway, just so we could spend time together. So I just said, well, everything we do today, we're just going to do it together. So if I have to go get another truckload of dirt, we'll just ride together. I'd rather just do it that way. And then later on in the day when we were doing stuff, well, let's just stick together. And we'll do this together, and then we'll do this together. And it was nice.
Yeah,
even though we were working all day,
together,
we did get the raised beds in, and we spent time together.
Yeah, that's good.
But talking, communicating, spending that time, giving the person the time. I know guys appreciate shoulder-to-shoulder time. Wives appreciate face-to-face time.
Yeah.
So for a guy, he thinks that if we were all day long and we were working shoulder-to-shoulder, that counts as time together. A wife would rather, no, just sit down with me. Talk to me, look at me, show interest, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying you.
Yeah, I'm not your typical
women
gal. I like
general.
shoulder to shoulder too.
Yeah, you like shoulder to shoulder too.
I'm a doer.
It kind of spoils me, actually. 1 Peter 3:7, husbands in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives, treat them with respect as a weaker partner and as heirs with you the gracious gift of life so that nothing will hinder your prayers. I think it's such an important verse, like I'm supposed to live with you in a considerate way. So I'm going to listen to you because I need to live with you in an understanding way. I can't live with you in an understanding way if I'm not listening to you. If I'm not trying to really understand. If I only care about me and what I want and I just bulldoze you. And by the way, Couples Retreat is a really great movie. I'm not saying they don't have some questionable parts, inappropriate spots on there, because they do. But man, they really delve into that. I feel like I'm getting bulldozed, or I feel like you're not listening to me. Remember the one guy, he just never listens to his wife when she wants to talk about the kitchen.
Yeah.
Every time she wants to talk about the kitchen, he absolutely tunes her out.
Yeah, because it's not important to him.
It was not important.
Right.
Because he's tired, because he worked all day. I don't have time to listen to you. And then they get into marriage counseling, which they didn't even want in the first place, which is so funny. And, how's your marriage? Well, we get through.
Yeah, we get through things.
We get through things. You get, he's writing stuff down. You know what I'm saying? And then the guy goes, I really don't want you to write stuff down. He goes, would you like it if I wouldn't write it down? The counselor says, yeah, I'd like it, Vince Vaughn said. I'd like it if you didn't write stuff down. Okay, interesting. And he writes that down. That movie is so funny. But it does delve into a lot of the couples just aren't having fun.
Yeah.
Like they're not doing things together. They're just going through life, and everything's about the business of marriage. Everything's about just working. Everything's just about the kids, everything. And they don't go out. And it just pointed out how so many of these couples just didn't go out. I mean, they all thought they were okay. They go to this retreat, and then they realize, man, we're not really doing what we need to be
investing
doing.
in. Yeah, it's true. And, your marriage, if you have children and, responsibilities, it's never going to be the same as it was when you were dating or first married and you had no responsibilities except just to do stuff with each other. But I think that's where you especially need to schedule that time in there to just do things together and things that are fun.
Yeah, and I mean, we come up the Memorial Day weekend. I've got a wedding, so I'm going to be busy Friday night, Saturday. Well, pretty much most of the day, Saturday, Sunday till noon. After that, I look forward to whatever kids can be around to see me. But we don't mind that. Like some of our time is just spending time with family. Always was.
Of course, you'll love it. Yeah.
Always was. We spend a lot of time with our kids, but there's also time for you and me.
Yeah, we just go and do things ourselves.
Right, all the time. I mean, we constantly go. We're open to other people.
Our kids don't want to go hiking all the time with us.
They don't. So, phooey on them. That's all I can say. I really do think, though, that time, that understanding way, doing things together, all those things are super, super, super important when it comes to relationships. Yeah. Again, slow to speak, quick to listen, slow to become angry. Because a lot of times you just get to that point where we just put other things as more important than the relationship. And when it comes to the end of the day, the bills that I pay, the things I choose to do, let's say if somebody put on weight or not, how busy they were or not, is not the relationship. And if I somehow mess up the relationship because I've made some way lesser thing, like where shoes go, and I made everything about that, and I drove everyone around me crazy, instead of just really working on that relationship, I think it's a mistake. Yeah. I think that when we think about our goals and we think about what's important to us and what our expectations are, there has to be some comparison of relevance to the actual relationship itself. So me being mad at you over something petty maybe you didn't tell me something or whatever. I mean, I'm just trying to think of something. And that's not nearly as important as our relationship.
Right.
And there have been days, honestly, where I've ruined our day because I was upset you missed a turn.
Yeah.
Isn't it true?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You hard sailing.
I've gotten, well, the thing that aggravated me, I spent $500 in my truck to get her a big map right on the front screen so we didn't miss things. And yeah, and sometimes I'm like, it was right there.
Yeah, it was worse the one day when I forgot glasses and I couldn't read it.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's not the point. The point
Yeah.
is, was it stupid for you to miss the turn? Of course it was. But it wasn't.
My favorite story. Okay, so we were yard sailing one day.
I'm just kidding. Wait, before you say anything, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking.
So,
All right.
Bill always gets uptight. Like if I miss turn, I got to turn around the driveway. It's like it's a constant thing, you know. And so one day he was driving, and the kids are in the car. GPS is on, and it's one of those intersections where there's like a turn and then a turn. And he turned at the first one instead of the second one, which is the one he was supposed to turn at. And he's like, oh, I turned at the wrong one. He goes, well, the Lord must have wanted me to go this way for some reason. And I'm like, when you make a wrong turn, it's a spiritual thing.
Listen.
We still laugh about it.
Exactly.
I'm like, the Lord must want me to turn around this driveway.
It was years ago. They still laugh about it. Did you hear me? This is why, guys, you have to be careful what you say because they will be laughing at you. If you make the wrong excuse, you make a bad excuse. Like, I played a bad card. I admit it. I played the God's will card. I'm missing a turn, which I never let Jerry play, the God's will card, which he misses a turn. And they have reminded me about that every time. If they must be God's will. I missed the turn. So we've laughed about that for a long time. And I did think it was funny, even when you guys were picking on me. Like, I can take being ribbed. Like, I love it when people, it's like my love language. How do you show love? Pick on me. It's like my love language. But yeah, I just feel like you're right. So it was a funny story. And patience. So not ruining it. I mean, I'm trying to wonder, why do we start telling this story? Oh, because, I've ruined days because I've, gotten upset about things that aren't as important as you.
Right, that don't matter.
That don't matter. And I think sometimes when you start getting barky, like I used to teach all the kids this, and I'll close with this. You get to be a pace setter, especially in the morning, when you're working with your family. And I used to tell our children as they were in their teenage years, every one of you guys can be a pace setter for this day.
Right.
And you can set the tone for the rest of the day here at breakfast. And you can set a grumpy tone and get all of us upset and mad, which they did at times, or you can set a positive tone. Well, whatever tone you're setting when you're first getting off in your day is going to be a tone that can carry you for the next several hours. And what I found is sometimes when I, as a pace setter, had an opportunity to set a more positive pace, when I set a negative pace, that affects the day in a negative way, which no one is having fun when everyone's mad at each other. It set a negative tone.
Right.
And sometimes if I'm not careful, I'm setting a negative tone with my spouse. And I don't want to set a negative tone. I want to set a positive tone. Like, I'm a pace setter for the relationship. So what tone? I think is a super important point. What tone am I setting for you? And I appreciate all your patience with me over the years. And I feel like we haven't had a fight in a long time.
No.
I mean, it just seems like, which is pretty staggering as I think about it. I mean, because we quibble from time to time.
Just about stupid
stuff. But I can't think of anything. Like, even quibbling, I'm like, man, have I mellowed out that much in my life? Maybe I did finally grow up. I don't know, but it's important. I think it's important that we get along. It's important that I care. And I really was thinking about today before doing this show, like, how can I make myself more lovable to my wife? How can I make myself, because I always want to get better. I always strive to want to improve the relationship. I'm never content. So, well, you could do this, Bill, or you could do this. How can you serve your wife? What can you do for her? You got to think about these things too. Right. So marriage. That's marriage. So we hope that you've appreciated tuning into this podcast. Feel free to share it. Feel free to subscribe to the church YouTube page. Feel free to subscribe if you hear it on Way to Go at Podbean. Feel free to subscribe and follow us there too. But anyway, you all have a great and an awesome week. Keep working on that marriage. Never give up.